With rumours circulating that half of the squad could be up for sale, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe seemingly on a bit of a mission to accelerate Manchester United's progress, there's loads of talk over the last few days in the media of a massive squad clear out that's been dominating the headlines. So in this video, I'll go through a keep or sell list, breaking down which players could stay, who might leave and why. And by the end, we should have a clear state of Manchester United's transfer priorities going into 2025. Get involved in the comments. Let me know who you'd keep, who you would sell, and let's debate it down there. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So I've divided this down into 4 categories: keep, sell, explain themselves. So there's out of contracts. We do have a few players out of contract, and then I've added a last chance category. Now that's based on one of Omar Barada's big things while he was at Manchester City, was that players have 2 seasons to kind of prove themselves. Otherwise, they should be moved on. So I've created a last chance category for players that need to show something, in my opinion, between now and the end of the season to see whether they would then be kept and potentially sold on. So some players do need to kind of prove themselves between now and then. Potentially to be on the keep or the sell list. But get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think, and let's go through it. So Onana, for me, is a definite keep. I think he's been outstanding so far this season, barring the Nottingham Forest game. I thought he was good the tail end of last season as well. He had a shaky start to his life at United, specifically in the Champions League as well. He had some howlers last season, but so far this season, apart from Forest, not put a foot wrong. So I would be keeping Andre Onana. Bayinda, I think, is sell. Apparently he wants to play first team football and be a number 1. Can't really blame him for that, being honest with you. So I do think that himself wants to leave. So I would put him on the sell category. And Tom Eaton's out of contract. And I don't think at his age they're potentially going to be renewing that one. So you can see straight away, goalkeeper is potentially a position that we could be looking to bring in going forward into 2025. Let's go through the defence. Mazraoui is a definite keep. Been outstanding. I think him and Onana and maybe Ahmad have been arguably our best players so far this season. So yeah, definite keep for me for Mazraoui. He's a quality player, isn't he? Diego Dallo, I'm going to put in the last chance personally, because last season, yes, he had a good season himself last season, but we still finished 8th in the league. And this season, I think he's had a really, really shaky start. I think there's been more, kind of poor performances than good performance from Dallo this season. He is playing out of position though, but so he can, if he gets back to his kind of best, maybe he needs to be in a more comfortable position. But for me, Diego Dallo would be last chance based on his form so far this season. Victor Lindelof's out of contract. Johnny Evans is out of contract. I don't think the club are going to be renewing their contracts. Johnny Evans is probably likely going to retire. And I think Victor Lindelof has kind of outstayed his welcome a little bit at United. So I would definitely be looking to move Lindelof on. And Johnny Evans, like I said, I think he's going to retire. Matthias de Ligt is a keep. Just signed him. I think he's actually had a good start to the season. So yeah, no issues with me for Matthias de Ligt. Martinez, I'm putting him in the last chance category. Last season, injured all season, couldn't really perform. And then the start to this season has been a little bit mixed as well. So I do think potentially that might be a position that we would look to maybe get a rotation or a backup for Martinez. But again, some of it might depend on his form between now and the end of the season, because he has had a bit of a mixed start to the season. But based on the fact that he didn't play last season, I think it's his kind of last chance. Needs to perform this season based on that kind of 2-year thing that I mentioned earlier. So for me, Martinez is last chance. Maguire, as it stands at the moment, he's out of contract, and there are rumours that potentially United might do the +1 that he has available in his contract. But then when you look at, the cost-cutting missions we're on and stuff, he's on 250 grand a week. That's money that they could just write off on the wages at the end of the financial year, or the football financial year as well. So still big question mark around Maguire. Personally, I would do the +1, because by the end of this, you'll see how many players we are actually going to let go on a free and potentially sell. But as it stands at this moment, he's out of contract, and I could see the benefit of letting his contract run down financially, but then there's a risk involved that we might have to go into the transfer market for 2 or 3 players in a position. if you do let him go. But, or could you maybe goodwill Kakonki's coming through? Could he potentially step up into the first team? But at the moment, Maguire's out of contract, so that's where he's kind of sitting. Let me know actually in the comments, what would you do with Maguire? Give him the +1, or would you let him go for free in the summer? Lenny Yoro's an obvious keep. Obviously, he had a bit of an unlucky start to his career, being injured. Now going to start hopefully getting some more game time so we can actually see what he's all about once he gets up and running and finds his feet and finds his form again. But very highly regarded. He's been, I think he's done a decent job in the couple of appearances that he's made so far as well. So you can see the kind of qualities that he will bring. We just need to give him time, let him develop. But definite keep for me for Lenny Yoro. Tyrone Malacia, last chance, injured all last season, just coming back into the team. Need to see whether he can find any form or find out what his kind of fitness levels are going to be, what his performance levels are going to be. Massive unknown, but clearly if he doesn't perform, based on the fact that he didn't play at all last season, would definitely be last chance for me for Tyrone Malacia. Luke Shaw, I would sell. Whether we would get a buyer for him, though, I doubt, because he's on big wages and he's never playing, but he's constantly injured. For that reason, I would sell Luke Shaw. I think the time's come to admit that actually, look, your body's a little bit broken, and we can't afford to keep carrying players like that are on big wages and never available. So for me, I would be selling Luke Shaw for that reason. Christian Eriksen, surprisingly, under Ten Hag, start of the season, you'd be thinking player of the year because he was outstanding. Not really been given much gate opportunity since Amorim came in. Van Nistelrooy didn't necessarily fancy him as much as well. Went with the Casemiro Ugarte kind of pivot in midfield. Out of contract in the summer. Talk that we might potentially want to move him on in January as well, but as it stands, out of contract. And yeah, we do need to move on from Eriksen, get someone with a bit more physicality, a bit more. That's what they want to do. They want to improve the kind of physical floor in at United, and Eriksen kind of doesn't fit that criteria. But he is out of contract in the summer. Toby Collier, I would sell. He's homegrown, would be a massive kind of positive to get that kind of for the PSR profits. Don't know if he's quite good enough to be a first-team regular. Not really had any minutes this season, which suggests that people at the club don't necessarily think that he's a first-team quality. But include some buyback, sell-on clauses and all of that stuff and get the money. Use it from PSR perspective, that would be massive. But also protect yourself so if he does go away and become a really good player, you can buy him back. Or if he gets sold on for a big wage, big fee, then obviously we can profit from that as well. But for me, Toby Collier, I would be looking to sell. Same for Casemiro. Do think the club want to sell him. I think they wanted to sell him in the summer as well. Problem is, he's on £350,000 a week, and there are not clubs out there that are going to be paying that sort of wage, apart from the Saudi Pro League. But apparently they're going down a different kind of model. Whether they would come back in January or in the summer for Casemiro, who knows? But I would definitely be looking to sell Casemiro. But whether we can get a buyer for him on the wages that he's on is a massive issue. Yeah, and it's one of those, isn't it, with Casemiro? I do think the club want to move him on, but who's going to be able to afford his wages? That's the big kind of sticking point. But for me, I would be looking to sell Casemiro. Kobe Mainoo's a stay. Fantastic young talent. I think the club wanted him to be the new face of Man United going forward and, got the right attitude, loads of development in him. Definitely be keeping Kobe Mainoo. Rashford, this will divide opinion. For me, it's in the last chance category because last season he was terrible. It will be the season before good. Last season terrible. This season mixed. I think he's had, not really outstanding performances, but not as bad as he's being made out to be. I don't think in the media, just nothing kind of special. And it's just his attitude, isn't it? I think the kind of, even between now and the end of the season, we just saw some fire in his belly and some kind of something on the pitch. Would probably be all right, but he just looks like he's devoid of confidence. It doesn't look like he's happy to be on the pitch sometimes, which doesn't help his situation. But for me, last chance. If he doesn't perform between now and the summer, I think they would look to potentially move on Rashford at that stage. Then we've got to stick with the midfield. Go with Mount. So Mason Mount, for me, last chance. Injured all last season. Not really done anything of note in a Man United shirt. I can't remember he runs around a lot and he's good at pressing, but you need to be more than that at United. Do you know what I mean? I think Amorim obviously likes him because he's kind of talked about him in a few of his press conferences, but we need to see more than just, running around. You need to actually do something with the football and create chances and, goals and assists. You're there to be like an attacking outlet. Need to see more from Mason Mount, but he was injured all last season, and this season hasn't been good for him either. So definitely last chance for me for Mason Mount. Bruno, I would keep. I do think if the club got big money for him, though, they would potentially look to sell him, but we just give him a new contract in the summer on big wages, kind of tied him down almost, because it's only going to be top clubs that can pay top wages potentially that he would be looking to go to. So for me, I would be keeping Bruno Fernandes. There's plenty of other players in the squad that need to be moved on before Bruno. So yeah, I would be looking to keep Bruno personally. And then Anthony is a keep, joking, definite sell. Not really rated, not liked, not done anything really of note for an £80 million signing. £200,000 a week. I think the club would definitely be looking to move on Anthony. Again, it's going to be the same problem there was Casemiro. Wages, who's going to be able to afford his wages? But if you lower the transfer fee, then maybe you might be able to get like a potential buyer somewhere for Anthony. But for me, definite sale. Ugarte is a keep. Just signed him, just coming into the team, just finding his form and his kind of fitness and everything like that as well. I think he's already made a massive difference in our midfield, and I think we look kind of, a little bit lost without him in the midfield with his energy and his pressing and everything like that as well. So for me, Ugarte is a definite keep. Ahmad is actually, at the moment, he's out of contract. Talks are, though, that he's going to be signing a new deal. He wants a new deal. We've offered a new deal. I think they're in negotiations. It's close to a conclusion. So I do think we will end up keeping Amad Diallo. But at the moment, he's out of contract. We do have the +1 on him, though, as well. But Ahmad, I think, is definitely going to be staying. And Garnacho, for me, would also be a keep. I know he gets a lot of criticism, and I share that frustration as well around his decision-making and his selfishness and everything like that. He is still only a young lad, though, and he's just been voted the 3rd best young player at the Golden Boy Awards. And I think we need to, realise that he is going to make mistakes. He is not the finished article. He's still a kid learning his trade, and he has development in him. And I do think that, maybe next season would be the time to maybe have a chat around and see how he's kind of pushed on and developed from there. But for me, it would be a keep at the moment. But let me know what you think in the comments. Højlund, for me, would be a keep. It's one of these with Højlund, very young, inexperienced, very raw, very good finisher of the ball, though, as well. It's just the same old with him. Chance creation, and he does need to develop himself. And there's a lot of pressure on a young lad coming in at 20 years old and being Manchester United's #1 striker. I don't think is necessarily fair on him to have to carry that. I thought he's handled himself really nicely with that as well. But for me, definitely one that's got development in him. I've seen enough to think that actually, yes, he could potentially go on to be a good striker. So I would be looking to keep Højlund. And Xerxes a weird one because he's only just signed. And I think it's a bit too soon to judge. He's got a lot of criticism. He's got a lot of reports about him being unhappy, wanting to go back to Italy and stuff like that as well. But ultimately, you'd need to give him time. He's 23 years old. First season in the Premier League. I think it's a bit too early to be judging Joshua Xerxes. And again, I would be kind of being a little bit patient with him. You could argue potentially maybe in the last chance, but again, the whole kind of thing is 2 years to prove yourself, 1 to settle in. Season 2 is where you should be kind of, performing because you're settled and everything like that as well. So I'll judge Xerxes more next season than I would necessarily this season as well. But going off of all of that, and again, this is my opinion. Some of it is based on, like out of contract, they're out of contract. That's factual. The sell list are based on, again, my opinion, but also what's been kind of reported. And but you can kind of see on there where potentially the weaknesses are going to be going into 2025. Definitely goalkeepers. That's going to be an area we need to strengthen. Left back, because Luke Shaw's always injured. Even if you wanted to keep him, he's still not available. And Tyrone Malacia, You know, who knows whether he's going to get back to his levels again? Only time will tell. So we know that's an area of weakness anyway. And then the centre-half position, because we've got, you know, Lindelof, Evans and Maguire all out of contract, that does leave you light in the centre-half position. Plus, I do think we need cover as well for Martinez. If he doesn't perform between now and the end of the season, you could see why maybe the club would listen to offers for him. There was rumours the other day about Real Madrid possibly sniffing around him as well. So I thought that was a really interesting kind of thing to go through, because you can kind of see the shape of the team and where it's kind of going. But the main thing on here is I would absolutely love you to get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you would keep. Let me know who you would sell. Let me know who you think the club are going to sell and keep. Get involved in the comments. Let's have a debate about it. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.